Hey YouTube, my name is Marcus Alston, and this is my channel. This is my first video, and I created this channel for a variety of reasons. The first being to help people who are struggling with mental illnesses, mostly athletes. As a former athlete, I feel like I can relate to, you know, collegiate athletes, high school athletes, or, you know, even youth athletes. I've played football for 14 years. I was thankful enough to play Division One AA at St. Francis University. I helped us lead our team to the first conference championship as a Division One AA program. During my 14 years of football, I was probably only on about 3 or 4 winning teams, so I take great pride in my ring. During my 14 years, I experienced a lot of hardships. Um, the biggest being injuries. Many of you know football is a very, very violent sport. I happen to play tight end majority of my career, and as some of you know, tight ends they block and they go out for passes, so they probably get banged up the most. Um, with that being said, I had to get my first surgery in 2011, my sophomore year. I had a minor operation on my knee. Um, didn't really affect me that much because I know my knee was going to feel a lot better, and it was going to get stronger over time. So fast forward 2 years to my senior year. Um, was very, very tough for me. I had an outstanding junior year. I was actually the #1 tight end in the state at the time. My junior year, I believe I had 40 something catches and roughly 400 something yards. I played with 2 Division I receivers that year as well. So with that being said, I was blessed enough to get recruited by some of the biggest schools in the country, such as Florida, Virginia Tech, Maryland, Virginia, a variety of schools. But my senior year, I suffered a pretty serious foot injury. Many of you may know, some may not. I had an injury called a Lisfranc fracture. I basically tore the ligaments between my first and second metatarsal, and it just caused my bones to shift over. Yeah, it was a pretty gruesome injury, to be quite honest with you, and it really affected me because your senior year is the big year. You're supposed to do your thing on the field, graduate, go to play college, um, big time ball, and that's was something I wanted to do ever since I was a child. Um, so with that being said, I had to get a second surgery on my foot, unfortunately. That kind of sucked because I had to get the plates and screws. Sorry about that. That's my dog, Coda. I just got her a couple months ago. Where was I? But with that being said, um, that second surgery was tough. Just getting the plates and screws removed. Knowing I had to do a couple more months rehab just obviously sucked. Just being on crutches, no one likes being on crutches. Um, so throughout those next couple months, the rehab process did not go that well, and unfortunately, the surgery failed. Um, at this time, I wasn't really getting any big time looks by any colleges, really. There was only two at the time. believe it was Maine and St. Francis University in Loretto, Pennsylvania. Um, and I had gotten a call from St. Francis, and I remember the coach telling me, we're interested in you. And I told the coach, I was like, Coach, I'm only interested in playing in Division I football. And he's like, we are Division I. And I just felt so bad because I just, had never heard of this school before. Um, but I was thankful, to later write history at that school. Um, so the second surgery failed, and I had to get a different kind of surgery. Instead of getting plates and screws in my foot and had them eventually taken out, I had a bone fusion done. So what they essentially did was took bone out of my heel and fused it between the first and second metatarsal, and then they kept the plates and screws in this time just to kind of hold everything together. So my foot has all this metal in it, and it's pretty wild looking. Um, so yeah, I was thankful enough, despite the injuries, to actually get an offer from St. Francis. They had pretty high hopes for me coming into camp. I was potentially going to be a 4-year starter, but since I had to get a third surgery on my foot, I had to miss my freshman season, and it sucked because, who doesn't want to come in as a true freshman and, start playing right away? Um, so that summer, I got surgery in June, and that was probably one of the worst summers of my life, to be quite honest with you. I was non-weight bearing for 12 weeks, so from June until the end of August. I couldn't put any weight on my foot. Just ruined my last summer at home, you know. And on top of that, I couldn't play football, again. So that sucked. So fast forward a little bit, going to actually, this would be the spring of my freshman year. Um, got in a little bit of trouble up at school, and just being young and dumb, drinking alcohol, smoking weed, just, what college students, do. Um, I ended up getting in trouble and getting suspended from college the fall of my sophomore year. Um, and at that time, I found out I had a torn labrum in my left shoulder. Um, so that was extremely, extremely tough. Um, because I had also gotten kicked out of my house. Stepfather, he had kicked me out of the house, and I was living with my friend from May until Christmas of that year. And then I went back to school that spring. Um, Luckily, I didn't get kicked out of school. Our head coach, Coach Valerio, he really stuck his neck out there for us, and I'm extremely thankful for that because, in some situations like that, people, tend to, give up on you, but he stuck by us through thick and thin, and I'm greatly appreciative of that. I was also able to take classes while I was staying at my buddy's as well, so I wasn't really, backtrack as far as an academic standpoint. Um, so yeah, fast forward to my junior year. Um, was tough because I hadn't played football in almost 3 years. It would have been roughly 2.5 years. And a lot of people don't really come back from this, Frank, due to the decrease, in their performance. Like I said, it's a pretty gruesome injury. There's been, numerous NFL players who have had the injury, and it's ended their careers. So, being able to plant and cut and just put balance, on that foot. It was very difficult at times, just the whole rehab process and, shaking all the rust out. There's just like a lot going on. And the people that were ahead of me on the roster, there were two seniors and one who had also had at least a year's experience. So there was a lot of people who had already knew the playbook, had gotten playing time, and here I am. I'm an upperclassman, and this is my first football camp. So I still had to learn the playbook, and the jump from like the high school playbook to the college playbooks like this. So it took me a while to learn that, because knowing the plays, just by drawing them and studying, the playbook only helps to a certain extent. You really have to get out there and, get those physical repetitions to kind of, understand the concepts of the play. Um, so yeah, that happened my junior year. Didn't play really at all. And we were actually one game away from winning the championship that year. Um, Lost a heartbreaker to Duquesne. Um, so fast forward one more year, it's my senior season. Um, it's pretty crazy kind of how life works out. The man upstairs always has a plan for you. Just remember that. So my senior year, um, I came in very, what's the word I'm looking for? Discouraged, um, because they brought in this transfer, 6'5", probably 255 pounds. So he was like your ideal like tight end size. Me on the other hand, not so much. More of like a slot uh, receiver kind of. When I played, I was 6'2", 235, 240. Um, but I was more of like an elusive tight end. I wasn't really meant for blocking. Um, but I had a really good spring ball, and I thought I was going to be number 2 on the depth chart going into fall camp. But they brought in this transfer from LA. A very nice kid. I've stayed with him numerous times while I've been out in California. Great family. Very thankful for them. But I really took it as a shot when they put him over me in the depth chart. That summer, I worked extremely hard. I believe I gained about 10 pounds of muscle. Um, and I didn't really do a lot of conditioning. I just never really was too fond of conditioning whatsoever. And we ran the conditioning test, and I was actually the only tight end to pass because I used that fuel and that fire for them, putting that transfer, you know, ahead of me. So I ended up being the only one to pass. So as the season progresses, um, I'm not really feeling that well. I kind of believe halfway through camp, I actually wanted to just give up, just through all the injuries. Um, I also forgot to mention I had 2 concussions at a pretty young age. Um, I split my head open here, had to get 7 stitches, and I was knocked out cold. I was in 4th grade. And in 7th grade, I got a concussion in a football game. And at that point, the concussion protocol just like wasn't a thing. So like you didn't really know what a concussion was. You just had gone back into the game. Um, so yeah, my senior year, halfway through the season, my best friend and the starting tight end, Matt, he ended up tearing his ACL, and it was a huge blow to us because Matt was basically like a 4-year starter, knew the playbook, in and out, um, and was just overall, good guy. And fortunately, he tore his ACL like in a freak play. We were in field goal, and he was next to a guy who was unfortunately 360 pounds, just a big boy, and he got hit over, and Matt's knee was locked out on the side, and all this guy's weight just came crashing on Matt's knee towards ACL. So that was my brother, so I kind of had to hold it down for him because that was his first real injury, and I had all these injuries, and I could barely, make it, but I knew I just had to go even harder for him. I didn't want to quit too because my class was the biggest class in St. Francis history. We had roughly 40 people come in, and I believe there was only 15 of us left, maybe even less. A lot of people just left, weren't really feeling it, but we stuck it out, and at the end of the day, we got a ring. We did what we came there to do. But back to what I was saying earlier, it's crazy how things work out in life. My senior game in high school is when I suffered the Lisfranc fracture. This was my homecoming game senior year against Calvert Hall. And then my senior game at St. Francis, which was also our homecoming as well, I scored a touchdown, and I helped lead us to the first conference title as a Division I program. And this happened in 2016. It's just been like an extreme roller coaster with this game of football. All those injuries just really affected me emotionally, physically. I'm still dealing with, a lot of the repercussions, because I didn't state a lot of the injuries I was dealing with my senior year. I retore my left labrum that I had gotten surgery on my junior year, and I tore my right labrum as well. I dealt with bruised ribs for approximately 2 weeks, and I also had tendonitis in my knee. So I was probably playing like at 50%, 60%, if that. Like I said, I just wanted to quit at that point, but I knew like if I stuck it out, like great things were going to happen, and I just felt like if I were to quit, that would just defeat the purpose of, me playing football all these years and not, getting that ultimate end goal. I just didn't want to bail on my brothers like that, so I stuck it out. For them, mostly, I would say, but obviously for me as well. So that's just like a little background story on me. As far as from an athletic standpoint. So yeah, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Feel free to talk to me, share your story, share what's going on with you. I would greatly appreciate it. I would love to know your guys' story, what sports you played, some of the, mental, hardships that you've had to experience. And I just want to reach out and, branch out to people and, help them and just, start a community and really, do some good in this world. Thanks, guys.